Good morning, everyone. We will continue our book reading this morning, Advanced Selling Strategy by Brian Tracy. We'll continue from where we stopped last week. Where was talking about the 7 closing techniques that we can use when trying to close sales. We looked at the inventional closing, we looked at the assumption close, we looked at the secondary close, we looked at the order sheet close, which was where we stopped last week. This morning we'll continue from there on page 400, which is on the last chapter 10, still talking about the 7 closing techniques. Today we'll be looking at the 7th and the final closing techniques in closing sales. So the 7th and final closing technique is what I call the I want to think it over close. This is the only way I know to save this kind of lost sale. You know by now that when a customer says I want to think over it, he's really saying goodbye. You know from your own experience that customers do not think it over. They do not sit there carefully studying your brochure or price list with a calculator and a pen. On the other hand, as many as 50% of the people you speak to are probably ready to buy at the completion of the professional sales presentation. They just need a little push. They need some help. A buying decision is stressful for them. They are tensed and uneasy and afraid to make a mistake. They may be right on the verge of saying yes, and they need the professional guidance of an excellent salesperson to push them over the edge. But if you accept the I want to think it over at face value and depart, you will probably never get a chance to see them or to sell to them again. This is how you use it. When the prospect says, I want to think it over, you appear to accept it gracefully. You smile agreeably and begin packing your briefcase and putting your materials away. As you do, you make conversation with these words. Mr. Prospect, that's a good idea. This is an important decision and you shouldn't rush into it. This word will cause the prospect to mentally relax. He sees that you are on your way. His resistance will drop as soon as you stop presenting and try to sell. You then ask in a curious tone of voice, Mr. Prospect, obviously you have a good reason for wanting to think it over. May I ask what it is? Is it money? Remain perfectly silent, watching his face. Smile gently, take a deep breath and let it out slowly. This is a critical moment. Again, you have nothing to lose. If you leave, you have lost this person as a prospect forever. The worst thing he can say is that he has no particular reason, but that he still wants to think it over. However, in many cases, he will reply by saying one of two things. He will say, yes, I'm concerned about the cost, or he will say, no, it is not the money. If he says, yes, it is the money, you immediately ask the question that deals with concerns about cost or price. You ask things like, how do you mean exactly? Why do you say that? Why do you feel that way? How far apart are we? Is price your only concern, or is there something else? If he says, no, it is not the money, you reply by asking, may I ask what is it? Again, you remain perfectly silent while you wait for his answer. In many cases, he will think about it for a few seconds, even a minute or longer, and then he will give you his final concerns or objection. He will finally tell you what is really on his mind. He will tell you the real reason he is hesitant about going ahead. If you can now satisfy him on his final condition, you can now go on to conclude the sales. You can say, Mr. Prospect, what if we could do this? Or I think there's a perfect answer to that question. The sales is once more within reach. The very best salesperson take nothing for granted. They review their sales presentation prior to every meeting with the client. They listen attentively when the client is speaking, and they watch for clues to indicate what the client is thinking or feeling. They are always alert for a signal that says that the customer is ready to make a buying decision. And once the customer has indicated a desire to buy, they step forward boldly and ask for the order. Final thoughts on the end game. Handling objections and closing the sales are intertwined. They are inseparable parts of the end game of selling process. Your ability to answer questions and resolve concerns satisfactorily is what gets you down to the 5-yard line in the game. But it is your ability to ask for the order that gets you the touchdown. The world belongs to the askers. Because of their fears of failure and rejection, most people are reluctant to ask for the things that they want and need. They suggest, imply, and hint, but they are reluctant to ask to be told no. Much of your success and happiness in life will be determined by your ability and your willingness to ask for the things you want. Learn to ask positively, ask cheerfully, ask politely, ask expectantly, ask for information, ask for appointments, ask for the reasons people hesitate, and ask for the real meaning that lies behind customers' statement. Most of all, ask for orders. Ask for customers to make decisions after you've gone through all the work of bringing a sales transaction through to the last step. As the Bible says, ask and it shall be given, and shall be given unto you. For all who ask, receive it. Courage and boldness are the fundamental qualities of top salespeople. Salespeople who reach their full potential are those who have overcome their fears and developed their courage to the point that they are willing to march bravely forward in the face of the blazing guns of continuous failures, frustrations, and rejections. Dorothy Brand, in her wonderful little book, Wake Up and Live, describes the secret of success that turned her life around. It was simply this. Once you've decided what you want, act as if it were impossible to fail, and it shall be. There are no limitations upon what you can accomplish in the profession of selling, except the limitation you place on yourself by your own doubts and fears. When you practice acting boldly and behaving as if it were impossible to fail, you will soon make the quality of courage a fundamental part of your character, where it will serve you all the days of your life. Your success in selling will then be guaranteed. Summary. I started off as a laborer. I spun my wheels for several years before I finally got into commission sales, peddling items from door to door. I started with no education, no skills, no friends, no money, no opportunity, and no contact. From that limited beginning, by learning and practicing the ideas I've written about in this book, I've been able to go from the bottom of each sales force I've worked with all the way to the top. I've been able to move from cheap boarding houses to a beautiful home on a golf course. I've gone from eating in cheap cafes to dining in the finest restaurants in the world, and so can you. I don't consider myself to be a great salesman. I've met men and women who could sell circles around me, but I'm a professional salesman. In the long run, I've been able to outperform and outsell virtually every salesperson I've ever met, and many I have never seen, because I have followed a logical process of professional selling. As described in this book, You don't have to be a super salesperson and leap tall buildings with a single bound, but you do have to take your profession seriously and study it as a doctor or lawyer would study his or her profession. You do have to be attentive to the details because you're talking about products or service that affect other people's life. You have to work on yourself as hard as you work on your craft. You have to study, learn, and grow on daily basis. You have to accept that everything counts. You have to commit yourself to become one of the finest sales people of your generation. And when you do all this, the future that lies before you will be virtually unlimited. There has never been a time or place in all of history where an excellent salesperson could live a finer life than he or she can right now, right here in our economic system. There are no limits to how far or how high you can go in the profession of sales. As you become better, you will sell to more and better customers. You will be paid more and more. You will earn the respect and esteem of the people around you. You will take complete control of your own life and your own destiny. You'll be able to take charge of everything that happens to you. You'll be able to achieve the level of financial independence, success, satisfaction, joy, and self-fulfillment greater than you could ever imagine. Nothing that has happened before can nothing that has happened before can have any effect on or bearing on what you can make happen in the future. As Shakespeare wrote, what's past is prologue. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. All that matters is where you're going. I look forward to hearing from you or seeing you personally at my seminar. In the meantime, don't just have a good day. Go out there and make it a good day. Good luck. So with that, we've come to the end of our book reading. Said the final thoughts on Endgame. So it is telling us that it is better to, or it is very important to be able to handle objections when they come up in your sales presentation. Always have the ability or be able to answer questions and resolve concerns of customers satisfactorily. So that's just a brief summary of where we've read this morning, and it brings us to the end of our book reading, Advanced Selling Strategy by Brian Tracy. Thank you.